In the third year after I married the head of the Leo family, I faked my death and ran away. The head of the Leo family, who was always calm and self-sustaining, didn't believe that I was dead. He used the family's power and went crazy looking for me all over the city. A year later, I received a mission to get close to the increasingly powerful man again and steal secrets. This time I decided to disguise my identity and become his substitute lover. The gay man kissed my face with a warm pen. His voice was hoarse. Baby, if you come to me, don't think about running away. When I received the call from the organization, I was sunbathing on a resort island. Aurora, that man is getting crazier and crazier. It's really hard for other people in the organization to take over. You have to go back. After you finish this job, the organization will let you go free. I crossed my legs and drank the iced drink in my hand nonchalantly. Boss, you said the same thing last time. The other party, this time it's true. Since you faked your death and left Leo a year ago, the organization has never been able to insert anyone around him. No. Going back is like sending yourself to death. Leo hates being betrayed the most. If he knew that I faked my death and used a fake identity to deceive him into marriage, I would not be able to enjoy my freedom. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment, so this time, the organization decided to let you change your identity and play the role of his wife's substitute. I laughed. Isn't his wife me? You want me to be your substitute? This is the best plan. No. It was so funny. I finally ran out of the wolf's den, so there was no reason to go back in. I put on my sunglasses and was about to hang up the phone. The other party suddenly said earnestly, Aurora, your good sister Luna was captured by Leo during the last mission. You have slept in the same bed with Leo for so long, you must know his methods. Now the only one who can rescue her is you. Really not going? This wicked dog organization. When I pulled the suitcase back to Jingchi City, I was still cursing. Luna is my best friend in the organization. The organization asked her to get close to Leo. With her thick nerves and her brain that only wants to solve problems with pure violence, how can she beat that evil wolf who is strategizing? When I was dealing with Leo at the beginning, I was always cautious, even pausing in words, I had to think before. Later, when the relationship made substantial progress, I gradually let go. I pinched my throbbing temple and sighed. I thought that I would never see each other again after leaving that time, but I didn't expect that I would come back a year later. Jingchi City is a prosperous national economic center. Countless asphalt roads extend across and finally converge, pointing to the huge building in the center of the city center. In the sun, the extremely tall technology building is very eye-catching. That is the landmark building of the Wolf Tribe Leo family in Jingchi City. A year ago, I was on the top floor of that technology building, and pressed Leo, the head of the Leo family, who was the most difficult to mess with in the Wolf Tribe, against the French window. The man who had always been steady was teased by me so that his clothes were messy and his wolf ears were exposed. Enough. He panted lightly with an unstable breath. I lifted his chin with one hand. The other hand pulled his wolf tail viciously. Leo, what would happen if your business rival saw you like this? At that time, the sunlight outside the window just came in, outlining the man's smooth jawline, and his sharp and beautiful eyes looked at me. He couldn't stand it anymore, so he bit my lower lip hard. His voice was helpless and indulgent. Madam, I'm about to be played to death by you. In just 1 year, things have changed, and I am no longer the head of the Wolf Tribe Leo family. Cars were coming and going. I squatted on the side of the road and laughed with a little boy who looked about 6 or 7 years old. I said, is it delicious? Delicious. The little boy nodded, very obedient. $8, don't forget to pay it back. The little boy said seriously, I just saw it, it's $6. I smiled, you are good at math, kid, so the organization sent you to assist me? The little boy said, the turtle tribe has always grown slowly. I am already 15 years old. Don't be confused by my appearance. Believe in my business ability. I pinched his chubby little face. Go play, you don't know how strong the Leo family is. When they are discovered, they can even peel off the turtle shell for you to make soup. The little boy said, I already have a solution. I raised my eyebrows and was about to ask him what the solution was, but his eyes suddenly turned dark green when he looked at me. I fainted. When I woke up again, I found myself tied to a cold and exquisite table. There was noisy sound all around. 5 million once. 5 million twice. After looking around, I found that I was actually sold. This little bastard actually thought of this method, which is quite smart. I was wearing a mask on my face at this time. My eyes secretly looked at the man sitting at the highest point of the auction hall. Sure enough, he was there. I raised my eyebrows, adjusted my mood, and pretended to be scared and nervous. When it was my turn to be auctioned, I accidentally rubbed off the mask on my face. The silver mask fell to the ground with a crisp sound. The whole audience was in an uproar. Those who can participate in such a high-end auction are all well-known figures in Jingchi City. No one thought that the beauty girl auction this time would be so similar to the deceased wife of the head of the Wolf Clan Leo family. Everyone subconsciously looked at the man sitting in the high position. The atmosphere was subtle and no one dared to bid. I could feel a cold and scrutinizing gaze falling on me. I lowered my head and didn't look at him. 30 million. Under the slightly dim light, the man sitting in the high position spoke lightly. Everything went smoothly. He took me back to a private villa, not the house where we lived before. I breathed a sigh of relief. This means that he didn't recognize me and didn't trust me. At this time, the cold and slender hand pinched my chin, and the cold and handsome man looked at my face left and right. I admit that when I saw that handsome face that touched my heart again, I almost couldn't help but whistled at him. Unfortunately, I am no longer his legal wife. I have to play a pitiful and weak substitute. I squeezed out a stubborn tear with my acting skills. Let go, you pinched me. He was unmoved, and his eyes became colder and gloomy. Really like, he said, which hospital did you do the face surgery in? I bit my lip and cried, I look like this originally. Oh? He sneered, leaned over, and smelled the smell on my body. Orcs often leave their own unique scent on their partners to declare their sovereignty. After the death escape, the organization spent a lot of effort to clean the smell that Leo left on me. The staff who specializes in cleaning this special smell also quietly asked me, Master Leo is almost marinating you. I heard that werewolves have extraordinary physical strength. Is it also at night? Enough. Now is not the time to think about these things. When Leo approached me and smelled the smell on my body, I lowered my head, feeling guilty and dared not look at him directly. But my chin was pinched unceremoniously. Who sent you? I know that Leo, as the head of the Leo family, has a huge influence and naturally has many enemies. Many people want to deal with him, but few people can make him suffer. For such a person who has almost no weaknesses, it seems that only me before the death escape is his weak spot. After my fake death, many forces secretly sent substitutes who look similar to me. They all tried their best to imitate me, from voice tone, expression and movement, to daily clothing and taste preferences. But this is too deliberate. For a smart and cautious businessman like Leo, you have to do the opposite. I looked at him blankly, showing a timid and cowardly look, and lowered my head and sobbed. This is the opposite of my previous personality. I don't remember anything, and I don't understand what you are saying at all. Can you let me go, sir, please? Leo frowned and pulled away coldly. He looked down at me. Let you go? Sure, 30 million for redemption. I collapsed and covered my face in despair, but the corners of my mouth were quietly raised. The first step was successful, staying with him. As the main person, I was able to fall in love and marry him once with a fake identity. Now as a substitute, I am confident to hook up with him again. I stayed, but the situation was not what I thought. According to my expectation, my appearance and the main person are extremely similar, but my behavior is very different, which will attract Leo's attention. He should keep me as his cowardly substitute lover. As a result, he made me his little follower. The kind that kills people and hands over the knife. Bang! In the dim basement, a gunshot rang out, steady and fierce. The bullet hit the middle of the eyebrows. The middle-aged man who had just begged desperately fell to the ground in an instant. He was the man sent by other forces to assassinate Leo. Leo put down the gun expressionlessly and glanced at me indifferently. I quickly handed him the handkerchief. I pretended to be nervous and trembled in the middle, and didn't hold the handkerchief. But the man took it slowly and wiped his slender hands. There was obviously no blood on his hands, but he wiped it very seriously. While wiping, he said, "Are you afraid?" "I'm not afraid. I am an orphan. If the organization hadn't picked me up when I was a child, I would probably die on that desolate night. Over the years, in order to become stronger, I have encountered many dangers. I am not necessarily worse than Leo in playing with pistols." But his face showed fear, like a frightened little white flower. "How can you kill people? Killing is illegal." Leo sneered and looked at me for a long time. He picked up the gun and pointed it at my forehead. Out of instinctive avoidance of danger, I almost wanted to fight back. I held back. We stared at each other for nearly a minute. Leo's eyes were always deep and calm, as if he could see through everything. I was actually a little afraid that he would catch any abnormality in me. Other stand-ins were pretending to be like the image, but I pretended to be myself, but I was afraid of being too similar. I was afraid that if I accidentally revealed a move, he would see that I was his beloved wife who had died 3 years ago. And also the enemy who betrayed him. Leo was really affectionate, and he was also really cruel. I even knew how to deal with traitors better than he did. "Your eyes are so beautiful, like hers," he said. "Look up, look at me." My heartbeat quickened, and I pretended to be stubborn and lowered my head to avoid looking at him. But he suddenly pulled my wrist, and his tall body half-circled me, not allowing me to resist. He put the gun in my hand and wrapped my hand with his broad palm. He pressed my index finger and pulled the trigger. Another person on the opposite side was shot in the middle of the eyebrow. I wanted to cover my mouth and scream, but the next moment, the hot muzzle of the gun was against my waist again. He said casually, "You'd better be more like her. Leo has changed a lot. In the year I left, he became more ruthless. It may also be that he never let me get in touch with these things before. I used to be the wife of the head of the Leo family. Leo let me get in touch with the upper class, the toasting and flattery. He never let me see these bloody and dark things. He seemed like a qualified husband. As the head of a family, every time he came home late because of work, he would bring gifts to make up for it and give me all kinds of small surprises. If I were an ordinary girl, I would probably be deceived by his appearance and fall into his sweet love. Unfortunately, I am an organization killer who has experienced the warmth and coldness of human feelings, including marrying him, all with a purpose. So sometimes I don't believe that Leo really loves me. How can a cautious and changeable person fall in love with others so easily? During this period, I quietly looked for the traces of my good sister Luna. At the same time, the organization was also urging me to steal some information about Leo's family industry. In order to get this information, I tried to get closer to Leo, but I was always trembling with fear, afraid of pretending to be too similar. I couldn't be exposed, otherwise I wouldn't be able to get away with it. But who is Leo? He is too cautious. If it was a lover, I could still whisper in his ear, but now I am his younger brother, working for him to pay off his debts, and many things cannot be touched for a while. In order to speed up the progress of our relationship, I added fuel to the fire. Set Leo's house on fire. The huge private villa was very spectacular when it burned. To make it more realistic, I locked myself in the room. In the raging fire, although I had prepared before, I was still choked by the thick smoke. If Leo didn't come back in time, I would be burned to death. You are too risky. In the communicator, the little boy Max sent by the organization was unbelievable. I am still alive because I am brave enough, little bastard, you haven't paid me back for the hot and sour noodles yet. If I really die, remember to burn it for me, madman. I laughed. Oh, can a ruthless Leo fall in love with a normal person? The fire was getting bigger and bigger. I threw the communication equipment into the fire and watched it burn to ashes. The smoke was so thick that it made me cry. The air I could breathe was getting less and less. Why didn't Leo come? His car was not restricted today. Before I lost my water and completely passed out, I curled up and fell to the ground. Finally saw the door being kicked open from the outside. The flames swept through, and I blinked hard. The next second, I felt that the flames surrounding me were much smaller. I seemed to be picked up by someone. The other person was quite cool, but his heartbeat was very fast. Don't close your eyes. A low shout came in my ear. But I was so sleepy that I fell asleep. The fire was not small. When I woke up from the coma, 3 days had passed. Everything went as I expected. Because of the fire, I stayed with Leo almost 24 hours a day in the days that followed. The villa caught fire, it's on your account. If you can't pay it off, you won't be free in this life. He said coldly. Sometimes I feel very despicable. I know that what Leo fears most in his heart is my death. Now someone who looks exactly like his wife almost died in the sea of fire again. Even if he didn't show it, I could feel that he became colder and more silent. He spent almost 20 hours of the 24 hours dealing with work. And I had to stand aside, watching bitterly. There was not much work to do, and most of the time I just stood there. It was so boring that I secretly played a game of Snake. Every time at this time, cold eyes fell on me. Slacking off, salary deduction. This man deserves to have the best genes of the wolf tribe, and his reconnaissance ability is so strong, but I am not always under Leo's sight. As the head of the Leo family, with such a large enterprise, Leo always has endless meetings every day. I admire his energy and work enthusiasm. Every time at this time, I would stay in his office bored and play Snake unscrupulously. Of course, this is just an illusion. If I don't act so lazy, how can I let Leo and his men relax their vigilance? I searched his office without leaving any trace. He is indeed cautious, and the real corporate confidential information is not here. I didn't find the confidential information, but I found the photos I took with him. At that time, we were not married yet and were still in the passionate period of love. Leo had not yet taken over the position of the head of the Leo family. At that time, he was still an illegitimate child who had just been taken back by the Leo family. No one believed that such a person would become the swift and decisive person in charge of the Leo family in the future. I approached him at that time. Because I wanted to eat the cake from Chuanha's shop, he ran a long way to buy it for me. At that time, many people in Leo's family targeted this illegitimate child who suddenly appeared and wanted him dead. Leo was in danger. When he came back with the cake, he had a scratch on his forehead. There was blood flowing from his trembling head, but he didn't seem to feel it. He smiled at me, opened the cake with his own hands, and handed me a fork. Something happened on the way. I was late and made the baby wait for a long time. I fed him the first bite of cake and then helped him deal with the wound. He only had eyes for me throughout the whole process. This photo was also taken at that time. I didn't expect that he still kept it after so many years. And it was hidden in the most hidden cabinet with 3 password locks. Leo had been in a meeting for 4 hours. Just when I thought I was going to be hungry today, my assistant Ethan brought me a box of takeout. President Leo will be finished in a while, Miss Aurora, eat something first to fill your stomach. I looked at Ethan with satisfaction. When I was still Leo's wife, Ethan had just become Leo's assistant. At that time, he was very green, but he was serious about his work. I liked him at that time. He has indeed grown a lot with Leo in the past few years. Leo's office is connected to his private lounge. When Leo is in a meeting, I go in to rest. Sometimes being too obedient to the rules will make the relationship stop here forever. Since Leo doesn't want to have a lover, I, the main person, can only take the initiative to start this. The meeting ended very late. I came out of the lounge and saw Leo. He didn't look like he had done anything wrong, and he took the initiative to greet him. President Leo, I was too tired just now, so I went into sleep for a while. I didn't lie on your bed, but on the sofa. The voice was soft, and I got goosebumps. Gumachi frowned. I have become bolder in the past few days. I smiled shyly. Following you, of course I have learned a lot. Didn't you say that you want to be like her? Madam wouldn't have been so restrained sitting in the office waiting for you before. The air became colder. Facing his gaze, I still smiled, my expression unchanged. He walked up to me slowly, pinched my chin, and sneered, then don't show it, otherwise. I replied, you will die miserably. He raised his eyebrows in surprise. I said, President Leo, I'm a little hungry. He said, does it have anything to do with me? I said, I guess you are hungry too, do you want to have a midnight snack together? He snorted coldly, dealt with work, and ignored me. Half an hour later, I handed him a chicken leg attentively. Come on, President Leo, try it, this chicken leg is amazing, you will never get tired of it, and it helps digestion. The man's eyes were still fixed on the documents in his hand, and he didn't even look at me. I waved the chicken leg in front of him. Really not going to eat it? Take it away. This roasted chicken is too big for me to finish by myself. In the end, I finished it with Ethan outside the office. I said, he won't eat it even though it smells so good. Is he really from the wolf tribe? This is simply his loss. Ethan sighed. President Leo has strong self-control. I'm afraid only his wife can make him lose control. I was in a good mood after being praised for no reason. We were chatting happily when someone in the office suddenly walked out. Seeing that each of us had a chicken leg in his hand, Ethan was picking his teeth while eating for the sake of a neat appearance. Leo's expression was grim. Deduct my salary. Later, I gave Ethan some food, but he refused to take it. How can I bribe others and get closer to him? I can only eat these delicacies by myself. High-intensity work is not good after all. Leo got sick. Because of the high-intensity work and not eating well, he also got stomach problems. I am very troubled by his stomach problems. When I first met Leo, he had stomach problems, but not as serious as now. He could only eat a few more mouthfuls of food when I was around. Unfortunately, I am just a substitute now. Sometimes I can be bolder, but I still have to maintain basic sense of propriety. I kept scolding him for not eating well, but I couldn't force him to eat by opening his jaw. This time it was a bit serious, and the stomach problem also caused a fever. Leo was in a coma for a whole night, and he couldn't eat. Ethan was so anxious that he walked back and forth. What should I do? I had no choice but to roll up my sleeves and go to the kitchen, boil a bowl of black food, and feed him patiently. The man in a coma frowned and refused to eat. I directly opened his mouth and fed him a little bit with a spoon. It took more than half an hour to feed the bowl of black paste. I breathed a sigh of relief. Once when I was on a mission, I also had this state of coma and couldn't eat. It was my good sister Luna who boiled this thing and forced me to eat it, so I survived. So I knew Luna was captured, no matter how dangerous it was, I had to save her. In the second half of the night, Leo, who was still unconscious, kept holding my hand. The servant said, since the death of his wife, President Leo always has trouble sleeping at night. He has to deal with work until very late every night, and he eats only after being urged to eat. In order not to think about his wife, President Leo tosses his body around. If his wife knew, she would definitely be heartbroken. Miss Aurora, President Leo actually treats you differently. I can always see the shadow of his wife in you, but his wife has passed away, and people always have to look forward. The warm light hit the quilt, and I looked at Leo's sleeping face and said nothing. You are so diligent recently, what's your plan? The man who was still dealing with work while lying on the hospital bed looked up and asked me. I said, pay back the debt. Leo said coldly, you can't pay it back. I was kicked out of the room. Assistant Ethan looked apologetic. President Leo is still ill, so his tone is a bit fierce, don't take it to heart. I wasn't angry, and it was a bit strange. Leo had never lost his temper with me before. It's not that he didn't have a temper before, but he just suppressed it in front of me. Now he is more real. I like him quite a lot. Sister Aurora, you are really perverted. The little boy sent by the organization to assist me said on the phone. His code name is Max, he likes to tinker with potions, and when we first met, he even used drugs to knock me out and sold me. I didn't care, I am a person who will do anything to achieve my goal. Because I took care of the sick Leo during this period, I came into contact with some confidential information intentionally or unintentionally. I said, the organization likes people like me. Otherwise, why can't others do anything to Leo, and let me take the risk to come here to do the mission? This is indeed admirable. By the way, Sister Aurora, there is news about Sister Luna's whereabouts. I learned that Luna was caught by his men when she was on the mission without direct contact with Leo, and is now locked up in a nightclub. The situation is urgent. Do you want to take a day off to go out and play? After the meeting, Leo looked at the leave note I handed over with an indistinct expression. I said, you must take a vacation when you go to work. I have been working for many days. I also took care of you when you were sick. He said, I don't mark insignificant people. What a poisonous mouth. If it was before, I would definitely teach him a lesson, but now my identity is special. I can only grit my teeth, curse him in my heart, and then think of other ways. But unexpectedly, Ethan sent a black card in the evening. It is a privilege card that allows you to visit all Foo's shopping malls for free. Leo agreed to let me out. Ethan handed me the card and was about to leave. I stopped him. President Leo, aren't you afraid that I'll run away with the card? Ethan, President Leo believes you won't run away. I was very touched. Ethan, after all, the whole Jingqi city is watched by Leo's people, and they can catch you if you run away. Me. Touched and withdrawn. I was depressed by Leo for a long time, and I showed my skills after I came out. I ate 3 servings of grilled cold noodles. Sometimes this kind of street snack is better than a big meal. I successfully got the cooperation of the organization, and a substitute played me and continued to go shopping. While I put on a hat and mask, walked on another path, successfully sneaked into the nightclub, and rescued Luna. Luna was not seriously injured, because her appearance and figure were very good, and she happened to be sent to a partner of Leo's family tomorrow. After being rescued, Luna hugged me excitedly. Aurora, why did you come so late? If I was one day later, I would be sent to the old man's bed. I knocked on her forehead. You have to take this mission? You should have taken the kind of mission that relies on violence. You are suffering now. Fortunately, you didn't really fall into Leo's hands, otherwise you might not be a complete corpse now. Luna said, I just don't accept it. When you succeeded, I wanted to try it too. Who knew that the subordinates of that stinky man were so powerful? Fortunately, you didn't really stay with him, otherwise I would definitely teach him a lesson. Stop teaching him a lesson, Aunt, let's leave here first. After coming out, I sent her to the car. She pulled me into the car. Don't go back. You came here to save me. Sooner or later, Leo will know that he doesn't trust you. It's difficult for you to complete the mission. Come with me, and the organization won't blame you. Luna's words make sense. Leaving is indeed the best choice. Just like after completing the mission 3 years ago, I left without hesitation. Under the protection of the organization, I won't be found by Leo. However, I looked back at the tallest food technology building in the city center, and I felt reluctant for no reason. I am an excellent killer of the organization. I will not fail. I got out of the car, turned around handsomely, and waved. Wait until I complete the mission, and I will go back to see you male models. When I went back, the atmosphere in the house seemed very silent and depressing. The servants did not dare to say a word. Ethan told me that today is the anniversary of the death of his wife. Oh, it is my death anniversary. I even forgot it myself. 3 years ago today, I relied on the fire explosion to fake my death and left Leo. Not even a corpse was left for him. Leo is in the study. I came to the study, without turning on the lights. The room was dark, and there was a strong smell of alcohol. Did he drink? You know, Leo rarely drinks in order to stay sober and act rationally. Just thinking about it, a hand grabbed my neck in the dark. I breathed quickly. Fu, President Leo? Just when I thought I was going to be strangled to death by him and couldn't help but expose my skills, a weight pressed on me. He leaned on me. Leo? He was really drunk, with a smell of alcohol on his body, and his voice was a little hoarse. He leaned against my neck and asked softly, why do you want to leave? I was shocked, thinking that my identity had been discovered. Later I found out that it was just his drunken talk. I felt indescribably depressed. I am an orphan, and I had a miserable childhood, lacking love and feeling insecure. So for Leo, who also lacks love and feels insecure, I know how to conquer him. In some ways, we are the same kind of people. I was his only sense of security, but I betrayed and deceived him. My chin was pinched again. I won't let you leave me again. I screamed, and the whole person was carried horizontally. President Leo, you recognized the wrong person. The dim room. The man in a high position kissed my face gently and morbidly. His voice was hoarse. Don't leave me. This night was crazy. No less than our wedding night. He marked his breath on me again. The news that I was marked by Leo that night spread quickly. When Leo was in a meeting, someone slipped me a note secretly and agreed to meet at a place. After the meeting, I found that I knew the person opposite me, who was an old shareholder of Leo's family. He had always disliked Leo and felt that he was older and wanted to overthrow Leo. Although the old man was old, his eyes were still sharp and ambitious. He looked at me, she looks very similar to that woman. But being a substitute and living under the shadow of another woman is very sad, isn't it? It's a wise choice for you to join me. I smiled, it's a pity that following President Leo has many more benefits. The old man was stunned, and then realized something, and his face suddenly changed. No, catch her. It's too late to realize it now. The door behind me just opened. Second uncle, you are old, it's time to go back to your hometown to rest. It was Leo who answered him. How did I do this time? Not bad. When that person expressed his willingness to join forces with me, I pretended to join forces, but ended up helping Leo get the leverage on him. I have been unhappy with this old man for a long time. This old man has deep roots in Leo's family. When Leo wanted to marry me, he was the first to oppose it. He even sent someone to assassinate me, just to let the person he trained marry Leo. After I faked my death and escaped, I don't know how many substitutes he stuffed into Leo who looked like me. Now I feel very happy to overthrow him. It also increased Leo's attention to me. Now, I had become a substitute as I wish. We slept in the same bed, but he didn't do anything to me. He slept with his back to me. I don't understand. He marked me that night, but he didn't touch me again in the following days. He became a cold and quiet man again. We were a little far away from each other. Under the quilt, I touched his feet with my feet. You have to know that you are a substitute. He said coldly. Then he leaned to the side to avoid my feet. Inexplicably a little cute. I said professionally, President Leo, I will be a good substitute. Then I continued to poke him with my feet. He gritted his teeth and endured. When did you become so obedient? I said, you gave me too much. He was inexplicably angry. I realized that the atmosphere was not right, so I ran to sleep in another room on the second night. As a result, I was carried back in the middle of the night. Who allowed you to sleep in another room? You. I didn't say that. I never thought Leo was so interesting, serious and cute. Now you are getting more and more childish. He stopped. Now? Did you know me before? Damn. How did he say it so easily? I laughed. No, compared to the first time I met you. He stared at me for a long time. Really? Leo really didn't dispel his suspicion of me. I have been careful to deal with his temptations, but he is really cunning. He knows my preferences and knows how to test me. Let me eat food I don't like, pineapple. My mouth was sour and I got goosebumps. Leo observed my expression. I used all my acting skills to avoid showing any abnormality. Put this on and go out with me. I looked at the clothes in his hand and cursed in my heart. Such ugly clothes, this color combination, is what I dislike most. Leo knows how to mess with people's mentality, but unfortunately, I am a professional killer, these are not important to me. Until Leo showed his animal ears. Fuck. I fell. You know how difficult it is to make him show his animal ears. I looked away with difficulty. Well, my acting skills are impeccable. But this is not over yet. My good sister Luna was suddenly brought to me. Luna was tied up, with cloth stuffed in her mouth, and could only make a whining sound, looking at me for help. Still pretending? Leo leaned lazily on the sofa, his legs crossed. You have to change your identity when you come back, and you say I am childish, so have you had enough fun? I widened my eyes and took a step back. Leo already knew my identity, and everything he did during this period was just teasing me. I still underestimated him. But can he take back the animal ears on his head? Why do you shake your wolf ears when you talk? Doesn't he know that the most irresistible thing about me is that he looks so handsome and cute when he shakes his ears? Leo seemed to not know, and looked at me with a dark look in his eyes. Madam is so cruel. She left without telling me 3 years ago, and didn't give me any news. Now that she's back, why don't I give her a gift? Choose one between your friend and what you want. He was holding the confidential document I was looking for the organization. Oh, how can a loyal and ruthless person choose friends? Leo asked someone to give me another pistol. Kill your friends, and you will get what you want. I held the gun and hesitated. Leo half squinted his eyes. Why, you left me decisively at the beginning, why are you hesitating now? Or do you think I really have no weight in your heart? The voice stopped abruptly because the muzzle of the gun was pointed at him. Leo was stunned, his eyes were dripping with water. He smiled. You want to kill me? The gun fell to the ground with a crisp sound. I don't want anything. I threw the gun away and walked closer to him. A bodyguard wanted to stop me, but Leo raised his hand to stop him. I came to him, he was still sitting on the sofa, looking at me calmly. I leaned over, I want a kiss from you, okay, husband? Hearing the name of husband, the dark color in his eyes stagnated, and then deepened. What did you say? I want a kiss from you. I kissed him, he neither pushed me away nor hugged me, just stood still, letting me do whatever I did to him. I could see that he was addicted. He really loved me, even though I had betrayed him before. What Leo could not tolerate the most was betrayal. Unfortunately, I was going to betray him again. I heard Ethan exclaim, President Leo. Leo closed his eyes, leaned his head on my shoulder, and fell into a deep sleep. I used Max's drug to knock him out. This behavior is very risky, unless the other party trusts me very much. I touched the gun on Leo's body and fired a shot steadily at the ceiling. If you want your President Leo to survive, prepare a helicopter for me immediately. I successfully drove a helicopter with my sister Luna. Oh, yes, and Leo. After arriving at a safe place, Luna returned to the organization with confidential information. And I took Leo to a secluded countryside. I used a special potion made by Max on Leo, which can make people temporarily lose their memory. Leo's genes are too strong, so the effect is estimated to be smaller. Originally, it can make people lose their memory for half a year, but if used on him, it is only safe for 3 months. 2 months later, I opened a flower shop. Leo grows flowers, and I am responsible for selling flowers. When I was chatting with Luna on the phone, Luna couldn't stop laughing. Please move the camera to the yard. I want to see how the arrogant Leo family head digs the soil and plants flowers, ha ha ha. The laughter was too loud, so I quickly turned down the volume and looked out the window. In the sun, the man's tall figure was busy in the yard. The wind blew in the sea of flowers surged. The man who had always been cold and domineering was no longer cold at this time. He lowered his head and planted flowers seriously with a gentle expression. I couldn't help but curl my lips when I secretly saw this scene. Bringing Leo here was out of my selfishness. Leo was too tired. I wanted him to enjoy a carefree and comfortable life where he could bask in the sun every day. It also helped to restore his body. Now he dared not to eat, and I was not polite at all. I directly let him sleep on the floor outside. He now eats more punctually than the alarm clock. I have to say that Leo is so well behaved after losing his memory. He is almost 30 years old, but now he is like a clingy puppy. If I leave him for too long, he will cling to me. He is just too energetic. Now he doesn't need to deal with work intensively, and planting flowers is a retirement life for him. He can't vent his energy and torment me at night. These 2 months have been both happy and tiring. Unfortunately, 3 months are coming soon. If I stay here any longer, Leo will probably recover his memory. I want to leave before he recovers his memory. The day before leaving, he gave me the roses he planted himself. The beautiful roses were covered with water droplets and were about to bloom. It can be seen that the flower grower is very careful in raising them. The two of us walked hand in hand in the mountains like a young couple in love. When the wind blew, we smiled at each other. He wanted to come over and kiss me. I pretended to be shy, but I kissed him forcefully when he came over. He was obedient and let me conquer the city, but his hand on his waist always held me steadily. This was the comfortable life I wanted most when I was a child. I thought I would always lack love. But I didn't expect to meet a man like Leo, who gave me a lot of security. But I still have to leave him again. At night, I couldn't help crying. I didn't act for any purpose, I really cried. I hugged him and said in a muffled voice, "What should I do? I don't want to leave you at all." He said, "I can't leave, I have torn up your plane ticket." What? I looked at him in shock. Those deep eyes were familiar. I understood and hugged his neck. "When did you recover your memory?" He hooked his lips and touched my head, "Very early." Good guy. They say I'm a good actor, but Leo is even better. I can't remember how many times he has fooled me. But I can't leave him again. These 3 months, aren't they the time he used to keep me? I instinctively wanted to run, but he easily hooked the back of my collar and pulled me back into his arms. He laughed in anger. "Do you want to abandon me again?" I lowered my head, not daring to look at him. "Husband, don't be angry, can you let me go? Marriage fraud, escape, stealing Fu's secrets, which one do you think will make me let you go?" He pinched my waist and covered me with his whole body. "Husband is not angry, but you have to give me an explanation." An aggressive breath came over me, and it was the Leo the first was familiar with. I risked my life and smacked him on the face. He said, "That's it? It's not enough. I fell on you, you have to pay me for the rest of my life." Someone put something cold on my ring finger. It was a ring. He lowered his head and kissed my fingers. "Use your real identity, let's get married again." I was surprised, and my heart was sour. "I betrayed you, and you still want me to be your wife? You love-brained. Thanks to you. Aren't you afraid that I will refuse?" He raised his eyebrows. "You sleep with me every day, and you still want to deny it?" I shifted my gaze unnaturally. "Well, this marriage must be concluded, but I am a little reluctant to leave here, and there are flowers we planted. Leo and I intertwined our fingers. When we have time, we will come back to live here. I will send someone to take care of the flowers here. I said, aren't you a workaholic? He kissed my forehead. I work to support my wife, and nothing is more important than my wife. After not seeing each other for a few years, he is really good at saying sweet words. I turned over and covered the two of us with the quilt. I said, it's still early, why don't we work hard, give birth to a little heir, and travel around the world early? His eyes were completely gentle. It's not impossible. We indulged until late at night, and I was tightly held in his arms. His kiss was gentle but precious. Wife, don't leave me again, let's live a good life. The stars in the night sky were shining, and the flowers in the yard swayed in the wind. Even if you miss the right person, you will meet again one day and continue to love each other.